Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Pierce County Council and Tuesday study session. Today is May 6, 2025, and the time is 12:03. All members are present except for council members Morel, Kruger, and Herrera. And we are going to start with our normal order of business, which is just reviewing the meeting we will have this afternoon. So Ms. Long.
All right, thank you and good afternoon. This is your amended council meeting agenda for this afternoon's regular meeting. We did review the consent agenda. There has been no change to that from what we reviewed in study session yesterday. So unless there's a question, I will move right to section 7. We have 2 proclamations. The first is designating May 5th through the 9th as Affordable Housing Week in Pierce County, and Councilmember Denson will be reading that one.
Do you want to read it? Because I was going to read one next week, maybe on the wildfire. I mean, it's up to you.
Sure.
Okay, so Councilmember Ayala will be reading that one today.
I don't want to read 2 weeks in a row.
All right, and then the other is proclaiming May 5th as Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and People Awareness Day in Pierce County, and Councilmember Yambe will be reading that one today. Under section 8 resolutions, you have 2 items. The first is R 2025-143. This is confirming RL Soleil.
RL Solely.
Solely.
Yeah, RL
Why
Solely.
do I have a problem with that?
I don't know.
RL Solely as the Director of the Department of Emergency Management. And this received a due pass recommendation at Public Safety on April 28th. The next one is R 2025-141S. This is identifying street lighting and other neighborhood traffic projects for funding and authorizing the county engineer to review and authorize these projects. This does have one amendment. I know Mr. Swanson discussed it. Oh, there are 2 amendments. Okay. So one was discussed yesterday. There's another to talk about. And those are your agenda items for this afternoon.
Okay, are there any questions on anything but the amendments? Okay, we'll start with the amendments. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Chair Hitchen. Yes, this afternoon's meeting with the 2025 Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program, you will have 2 amendments. We did discuss the one for District 3 that Councilmember Kruger is sponsoring yesterday. Your second amendment, amendment number 2, is sponsored by Councilmember Denson. And again, it adds one additional project to the District 7 list. This project being added would be to install caution signs or other traffic calming measures in advance of the 144th Street Northwest and 54th Avenue Northwest intersection. That is right by the kind of Purdy transfer station. If you're familiar with the area, Councilmember Denson may want to speak more to kind of the specific issues going on there. But the amendment would just add that additional project to the list that will be forwarded to the county traffic engineer.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Denson, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just real quick.
Let me turn on your mic so everybody can hear you. There we go.
Just really quick. This was actually a project that was on the list that I initially sent to staff. And I didn't notice until yesterday when we were doing our map that it had fallen off. And it fell off, I think, because the traffic department has it on a list of projects to do some speed studies for. But to me, that didn't capture, that could help, but that didn't capture the extent of the issue with crashes. There's a lot of crashes there. So I wanted them to take another look, maybe some signs, some little things that we can do to prevent, because when there's crashes, they're very high velocity crashes and lots of injuries. So thank you for considering putting this back in. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on the amendments? Mr. Swanson, a question that I plan on asking, I'm going to let you know what it is now, but maybe you might want to either ask staff to be ready, is just really how does the projects, when the projects from a single district could take the entire amount, like how are they deciding which projects to work on? Because I look at some of these lists and some of them, like that could be the entire, I think, what, 175, I think. Yeah. Like, so how do they figure that out? Is that something they call and talk? Like, do we prioritize them? I'm just wondering, how do they choose the projects they do when they start to run out of that 175,000? Does that question make sense?
It is, and I'll prepare, the traffic engineer, Sarah Grice, will be on the call, and I'll have her prepped to
Okay.
provide
perfect.
an answer. to
If she
that.
answers during her presentation or you answered her even better, but I just always like to, that's a pretty specific question that has probably a specific answer. So any other questions on this item or for amendments? Okay, Mr. Swanson, we'll see you back at 3. That brings us to boards and commissions. We will go to Mr. Taylor.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you. Just quickly, there is one meeting of the Puget Sound Regional Council's Transportation Policy Board this meeting, or this month or week, sorry. Thursday, May the 8th at its regular time, 9:30 a.m. In terms of business action items on that agenda, there's really only one, and I just want to point out what that is. It's a request to approve project tracking exceptions. And so when agencies or jurisdictions receive funds from the Puget Sound Regional Council, they're required to hit certain milestones and provide certain reports for 2 jurisdictions that have asked for additional time in reporting, neither of which are in Pierce County. Otherwise, that meeting is going to be discussion of a number of other items, including an update on the legislative activities for the year, public survey results on safety and transportation, and then there'll be some discussion of the updates where things stand with the regional transportation plan, which you've heard about and you're quite familiar with. This update's going to focus on revenues and expenditures. So that's what's on deck for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Taylor, I got both a postcard and a letter, I believe from Pierce County Regional Council about a transportation study where I could put in a code and go in
Oh.
and take a certain, is that part of the work that you're talking about? I signed up, my transportation day is tomorrow. I'm supposed to track everywhere I travel.
I believe so. That should be the public. Let me verify that, but I believe it's the same survey that you're referring
Okay.
to.
It was
Yeah.
just really interesting. And I'm interested, I can bring back my feedback to the group if people care. I got both, like I said, a postcard and a mailer, very specific, code specific for my household. And then I was assigned a day and I'm supposed to track everywhere I go and how I traveled, whether it's walking or rolling or public transit or in my car, and then how many people in my car. And I was just like, wow, this is really interesting. So I'm curious what this will look like tomorrow, but I was
Sure.
like, I know who this group is. So, okay. Are there any other boards and commissions out there? Well, I will mention Board of Health is meeting for a regular meeting tomorrow. Hoping to have all members present, or my alternate. I don't know if anyone talked to you, but I'm gonna assume that Vice Chair Herrera is not attending.
I'm going to assume that too. And I don't know that anyone has reached out to my office, but it should be all right. I've got a tour with the DNR all day down in Olympia area, Thurston County, but
Are you in
so I
Capitol
might,
Forest?
sorry?
You're in Capitol Forest?
I don't know if that's part of it, but that whole
Okay.
area. But I should be able to log on at least remotely and for that in the executive session.
Okay.
But now I know I have to, so I will make sure that I do.
Thank you, because we are approving our budget amendment, so it would be good to have everybody there. We're also getting a presentation on reducing toxic chemicals in our bodies and environment through safe cookware. I don't know if you've seen any of the ads that the health department's been putting out around that programming, and part of it's reducing PFAS in our community by not cooking and washing regularly, things that are nonstick and some of the other things, and it's kind of helping us educate our community about how to remove some of these chemicals from our homes. So should be interesting. And then we do have that executive session. So having all members present is always preferable. Okay, well, seeing no other boards and commission report, we'll move on to chair's topics. My only topic is I got to certify an election last week. It's the wrong piece of paper. Last week on Friday. And the Graham Fire Rescue and Fire District number 18, like that merger basically approved and did very well. approved like 86%. You don't usually see that in anything where you're voting on things, but I guess the assumption there is that it's going to bring better services and be fiscally responsive. So I think that's great. Our two City of Tacoma and school districts both failed. It was specifically the Puyallup School District failed. Again, the actual voter approval was a pass, but in the state of Washington, not only do you have to get to 60% for a bond measure, but you also have to get a specific percentage of the last general election. In this case, it was the presidential election. Still don't understand why they went for these elections at this particular time, but they did. Their choice, their money, because it's expensive. And they needed 28,000 votes to be turned in and then hit that 60% threshold, and only 24,377 people voted. So disappointing for them. And then Tacoma's measure just went down. And I do not believe the rules are the same for initiatives. I could be wrong. I don't know. Ms. Long, do you know if for initiatives like that, do they need it? They don't have to hit they're just a 50% plus one type thing. They're not like the bond that has to get to a supermajority.
I
This may be
think
out of
as
your
a general rule, that's correct.
Okay. So, happy to share this. There was all the fun details about whose signatures didn't match, not individuals, but like the demographics of who and ages and stuff. So have that information. Other than that, we will go to communications. Mr. Dominique?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. Brian Dominique, your communications manager. Last week, the council did two proclamations, Small Business Week and Public Service Recognition Week for our public employees. That's May 4th to the 10th. So I just wanted to recognize that that's happening now. And the council did lift those up. In your packet, there are two proclamations. One is Memorial Day. It has a different title than we're used to seeing, honoring our heroes, Pierce County Remembers. That was an attempt to give the proclamation a little local flair, a little different than what we usually do. But I do want to point that out because it is different. Proclamation largely captures what we do every year with some minor changes to bring it into the current year, but pretty straightforward proclamation. And then the other proclamation is National Public Works Week. This was requested by the department. They also put forward a proclamation to recognize code enforcement. And so when I talked to them, what we agreed is to combine elements of that proclamation in with this. So this language will change slightly, but the spirit of the proclamation will largely remain the same, recognizing public works employees. And then we have so the Rules and Operations Committee approved, or they scheduled on the agenda Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and Wildfire Awareness Month for the May 13th council agenda. Those proclamations have been moved forward and are in their final form. So please take a look at those. If you do not want to sign them, please let me know. We operate on no news is good news in terms of signatures. So if we don't hear from you, we're assuming you're signing. And then there were some requested changes to the Asian America, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month after it made it through rules. Our procedure says that once it goes through rules, it's final. The changes are very minor and they just add some clarity around certain titles like Washington State Fairgrounds. So I wanted to bring that forward to see if I had consensus among the council to make those changes.
I'm going to be honest, I have not had a chance to read that, so I will
Have you
read it.
read? Do you-
I'll send it out to you guys.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry, it's
Appreciate
been a day. It's been a day, it's been a week, and it's only Tuesday. So anything else?
Nope, that is it for proclamations. We remain busy in communications. There's a lot of things happening at the federal level. It's very dynamic. I'm working closely with our chief of staff to track that, to make sure we're ready to pivot into a messaging framework should the need arise.
Okay, Thank you. I will just bring up one thing. I've been in conversation both with community stakeholders, and I think I've mentioned this to many of you around shifting Pride Month to the traditional as the rest of the country, rest of the world, honestly, to June. So we've scheduled and are working on having our Pride Proclamation on June 3rd. I think that's the Tuesday. So just want people to be aware, instead of doing it in July, I've had stakeholder engagement, both with Oasis Youth Center, the Rainbow Center, several other well-known community leaders that are in the LGBTQI plus community, along with a few people within the city of Tacoma, since Tacoma kind of has been the driving force to Pride in our county. And so trying to figure out how to walk that line of acknowledging Pride Month and the traditional month. And the thinking behind that really is around aligning our county with the rest of the community. We have a lot of smaller cities and towns that are starting to celebrate Pride, do proclamations. And then the county as a whole was acknowledging July, but they were doing it in June. And so it created not tension, but just frustration. Like, people are like, why 2 months? Like some of the concerns that people would raise. And so to try and bring us together, again, trying to build togetherness across the county, really looking at doing that in June. And I probably should have saved this conversation for next week when everybody was here, but it came to mind when we were talking about proclamations, and I believe we'll probably see a draft of that the following week. So.
That's correct. We will be moving into, so right now in our track, we're in pre-production phase for the Pride Month proclamation, just kind of researching what we're gonna recommend be placed in it. So that will come forward next week. It will be at pre-rules, and then the council will see it the week following. But the plan right now is June 3rd for Pride Proclamation, unless the council gives different direction.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Is there any other business before the council and study session?
Neither Susan or I have any further business, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Well, seeing no other business, we are adjourned. Thanks.